in achieving this vision. Away from that, we stayed with developments in the aviation sector, where the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, has now suspended Dana Airline operations in the country till further notice. The directive followed the incident involving a Dana airplane at Lagos Airport on Tuesday, which forced aviation authorities to divert flights from local to international airport. TVC News on Tuesday reported that one of the airline's aircraft with registration number 5NBKI skidded off the runway at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, though all 83 passengers and crew members disembarked safely. Mr. Keyamo explained that the recent incident underscored the urgency of the matter and that there's the need for swift and decisive action to be taken to safeguard the interests of all stakeholders involved. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau has commenced investigation. In a press statement by its Director, Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, Bimbo Oladeji, preliminary fact-finding revealed that Dana Airlines, with registration number 5NBKI, carrying 83 passengers and 6 crew members, departed Abuja at 8:20 a.m. local time and arrived in Lagos around 9:20 a.m. According to Mrs. Oladeji, the aircraft had a technical problem with its landing gear, experiencing directional control problems after landing, which made it veer off the wet runway to the left and travel onto the grassy area near the runway. There are no reported fatalities or injuries, and we're following that development very closely. Let's talk about the safety standards for transportation generally in Nigeria. And joining me from our Abuja studio is the Director General, Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Captain Alex Bade Jr. Captain, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, Nifemi.
Indeed. So let's just cut the chase and get to it. Let's begin with the runway excursion yesterday with Dana Air in Lagos. A preliminary report, we are told, will be ready in 30 days. But what more do you know about this incident?
I'm not at liberty to speak too much on that, as that will preempt the investigation currently ongoing. We did receive the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder this morning in Abuja at our flight safety lab. It's been downloaded, and I personally listened to some of it as well today. It's being analyzed now by our investigators. And as I said, the preliminary report should be out here under 30 days. We have up to 30 days per Annex 13 of the ICAO rulebook, but we will be publishing way before that timeline.
On what basis, then, has the minister directed the suspension of Dana Airline operations?
I don't know more than the public statement that's been put out, but he did say they need to do some forensic audits on the airline. And unfortunately, since the airline has had a few incidents in the past, I'm sure that's what necessitated the decision of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. I need to clarify that it's not the minister himself, but the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority who did that, due to the Civil Aviation Authority being an independent organization being supervised by our minister. So just to clear that misconception out there.
Indeed, that's the expectation, because the way the news has been reported is that the minister directed the NCAA to suspend the airline. Some have described that as an interference into the duties of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. Walk us through what the standard procedure is in this regard.
I can only walk you through the standard operating procedure for us at the NSIB when an incident or accident like this should occur. Which was the first thing we did yesterday, which was to deploy a GO team out there to secure the crash site, retrieve any evidence, and take our measurements. The airplane is still in our custody at this time. It's just been moved away from the runway. Our investigators will be going back in conjunction with Dana to do some tests on the airplane while we investigate here. We'll be inviting the pilots as well for interviews before we release the preliminary reports. And once that's done, there'll be more work going in the background with the aim to have a full report out here within 12 months.
Within 12 months? That's the standard practice,
yes.
Right?
Typically 12 months. it could be longer depending on the complexity of the incident and sometimes funding. The more complex it is, the more it costs to actually investigate these accidents. Luckily for us in Nigeria, we have a world-class flight safety lab. We have a materials science laboratory which tests various components from crashed or accidented aircraft as well. So typically we've moved faster. We've been able to move faster in recent times than previous times.
So interestingly, Captain, a similar incident happened with Dana some 6 years ago when its aircraft overshot the runway. I think that was at the Port Harcourt International Airport. At the time, it was blamed on harsh weather, and the airline applauded the captain for exhibiting what it called highest safety standards. Talk to us about what usually happens when these final reports are out, because I know it usually comes with recommendation. How well have we fared, in implementing this recommendation thus far?
I would like to say if you look back in the past 15 years, 15, 20 years or so, I think the AIB was formed in 2006 or 8, which is the precursor to now NSIB. So we've been here for at least 15 years. And you can see it's a testament to the AIB, the Nigerian aviation incident rate, an accident rate, has dropped off. It's been a steep decline from the early 2000s when we had multiple crashes back to back in Nigeria. So definitely there has been some improvement in our safety records here in Nigeria, no thanks to the AIB and of course the Ministry of Aviation support.
So are you saying that we are holding operators and service providers in the sector to the highest international safety standards as we speak?
Oh, absolutely. For the Nigerian Aviation or Civil Aviation Authority, the regulators, I know they take our safety recommendations seriously, and they hold these operators to the highest standards.
Let's talk about the waterways, because the Bureau, we understand, has also launched an investigation into the devastating boat accident that occurred in Annam River 2 weeks ago. That particular incident, came with many twists. What's the update now?
We did deploy our team, our accident investigation team, off of our Enugu office a couple of days after the incident. And they have been to the accident site. They've interviewed some survivors. They're working in collaboration with the Maritime Police out there in Anambra State. And the Maritime Police retrieved the boat and the engine, and our investigators have analyzed it. We've also been in contact with the Nigerian Inland Waterways Agency, who are the regulators there for the waterways in Nigeria. We've reached, I would say, at least 20% in our investigation. Unfortunately, there's a bit of resistance, or slow cooperation, slow interagency cooperation, which is typical for a new agency like the NSIB. Sometimes there's not acceptance out there. People are averse to change, but we work on fixing that in the coming year and collaborating strongly with the regulators for our waterways, namely Nigerian Inland Waterways Agency and NIMASA as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The NSIB formerly was AIB, right?
Yes, sir. AIB was the precursor to the Accident Investigation Bureau. It's the precursor to the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau now, which was passed by the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau Act, passed in 2022 by the last National Assembly. And I must add, the AIB, which was the precursor to the NSIB, was the natural agency to take this over, seeing as the aviation industry has stricter standards, or aviation in itself has stricter standards by other modes of transport. So the idea behind that was to take the strict or stringent safety standards in aviation to put them all in other modes of transport.
So are you saying that this challenge with interagency collaboration preceded the formation of NSIB? And what are you doing to resolve this?
Stakeholder engagement at this time, we're interfacing with the the relevant regulators across all modes at this time. We need to do more public sensitization as well, just to get it out there that the NSIB is here to investigate these incidents, because as far as I know, we did not have a dedicated investigative agency for other modes of transportation accidents. If you look at other modes, you have the Road Safety Corporation, who is a regulator, the NIMASA and NIWA, who are regulators for waterways, and the Railway Corporation, who are regulators for the rail. And you now have a case where the regulators judge, jury, and executioner in its own case. You can't regulate and investigate at the same time. You need an independent, unbiased body to investigate incidents and accidents across modes of transportation, as is normal practice across the world.
Captain Bade, let's take a commercial break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us, everyone.
The House Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption, in collaboration with Focal Insight Management Services, presents a two-day anti-corruption colloquium, Transparency, Accountability and Compliance, TAC 24. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, and the Executive Governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, Thursday 25th and Friday 26th of April 2024. Venue, Eco Hotels and Suites, Lagos. Time 9 a.m. prompt. Chief Host, Right Honorable Prince Kayode Moshood Akiolu, Chairman House Committee on Anti-Corruption. Together, let's fight corruption.
Captain Alex Bade Jr. is the Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, and we're taking a look at transportation safety in Nigeria. Thank you for staying the course on the program. Let's take a look at some of the latest data coming from your bureau. These figures, I believe, are from January 2023 to January this year. We're looking at 20 accidents in total in the period under review, with a casualty figure of 299. Out of 889 passengers. That's about 34%. We're looking at both incidents dashboard of the NSIB on the screen as we speak. Another interesting data is that 97% of the casualties were recorded on wooden boats as against 2% on fiber boats. And the leading cause of accident, we are told, according to this document, that contributed to these casualties from this report is overloading and non-use of life jacket, followed by other factors as seen on the screen. Captain Bade, wooden boats seem to be the culprit here. There are also issues with licenses, as most casualties are recorded from unknown boats. Is it that fiber boats are safer, or safety practices just poor on wooden boats?
Well, it's just, for lack of a better word, non-uniform regulation. It's not necessarily that fiber might be safer. Wooden boats can be inherently safe as well. The issue here is we have so many unregulated jetties and loading points in Nigeria. It's a big country. Apparently, we have over 30,000 kilometers of waterways, inland waterways in Nigeria. And the vast majority of these waterways are unregulated or not properly regulated. And as such, you have a higher incidence of these accidents there. And I must add that this data is just a snippet. It's actually a larger number out there. It's just some of these accidents happen in remote areas with little or no communication. Or by the time the information gets out, it's 5 days later, a week later. So this is just a fraction of the real accident and incident rates on our waterways in Nigeria.
I'm sure you've seen quite a number of videos out there of wooden boats ferrying buses and cars. It's everywhere on the internet. I'm wondering how you intend to challenge the status quo and ensure a level of compliance with relevant safety standards and regulations for inland waterway transportation?
Well, this goes back to what we spoke about earlier, which is cooperation, interagency cooperation. That's the first step in doing this. The agencies need to work hand in hand together to reduce this. We will make more safety recommendations, and we're working on something at this time to try to see if we can purchase vests while we go to sensitize out there and distribute to these people out there so they use more vests as they get on these boats. As for the transportation, cars on these wooden boats, it's inherently unsafe. And again, more regulation out there is needed. Just more and more regulation out there is needed to reduce the accident and incident rates in most of our waterways out there. Lagos blazes the trail in this. They're well regulated out there. Their waterways are well regulated. You have ferries. Everyone there, mostly everyone wears life jackets out there, and they transport cars across their waterways there safely each year.
There's also the issue of low licensing rate. You talked about, wearing safety gadgets and what have you. It's one thing for the Bureau to make recommendations. Are you concerned about the implementation of this recommendation? I mean, someone has to take responsibility for it, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm sure. I'm definitely concerned. As we just started, we'll see how the interfacing goes this year with the agencies, and once we make our safety recommendations, hopefully at the end of the year we'll regroup and see the compliance rate to this, and of course the regulators' forceful regulation of these safety recommendations that we put out there.
So the NSIB, which you had, is charged with the responsibility to investigate any transportation accident and serious incidents. Is the scope within the reach of road accident as well?
Yes, sir. As our act says, it says any accident by tracked vehicle, road, rail, maritime, or air. So our ambit covers all transportation modes in Nigeria.
So how come we haven't heard much about that? There's a lot about how the black box model, for instance, is now, a go-to even in other industries. They say that's why it's perhaps safest to fly. But with road accidents, we haven't had much of research and recommendation going into it. Do you agree?
Yeah, unfortunately, the NSIB is hamstrung by funding. We're working on that, and our Honorable Minister has been on that as well. We're working on funding, of course, with even international agencies as well. We've spoken to the Japanese International Cooperation Agency as well, with particular regards to road accidents and maritime. So we'll see how that goes as we move forward. But the reason why you haven't heard a lot of us on road transport is just it's funding and manpower, which we're working on at this time.
All right, let's talk about what you're doing differently. Because I remember when you came to office, you mentioned that your vision is to build an agency that is defined by transformative advancement that inspires transport safety and not by the tragedies it investigates. By that, you mean that NSIB, under your watch, will not simply react to these accidents, but proactively prevent them from occurring. Walk us through the specific steps that are being taken in this regard.
Of course, we are definitely, as you said, we're moving more towards a proactive rather than a reactive model for the NSIB. And first thing I would say, regulatory changes should not come at the expense of human lives, which is what we're doing, which is why we're trying to interface with these regulators and talk to them more, just to see how we can prevent these accidents and take our lessons from current accidents. Also, on the NSIB side, we're pioneering a new accident reporting agency. It's called ARGU. That's an acronym for Advanced Report Generating Utility Engine. It's actually multimodal. It's the first in its world, being developed here in Nigeria by Nigerian developers. And we just launched the air phase actually today, and that's what we're using for the Dana crash. It's going to speed up accident investigation and reports, and keeps everyone in the loop, It's in the past where, you had a team and they were working in a silo. Now this keeps it open to everybody, and we work, or everybody involved in that accident, and you can go, it's a one-stop shop online, and you go in there and you can see what everybody else is doing with this. And we plan on opening this up to maritime after we develop our regulations for maritime accident investigation and prevention. Right now we're using borrowed regulations, but we're developing ours for maritime. And we're going to chip at this one at a time. Once we're done with the maritime, then we would move to the rail and the road as well. I must also add that you mentioned something about the black boxes. Cars actually do have black boxes now. Most modern cars have a memory chip in there that records acceleration, braking, G-force, and a lot of other things, a host of things in there with all those sensors. And there's equipment now with which you can download this data from accidented cars. So working towards acquiring said tools once we interface with road safety, and hopefully we'll take our Nigerian road safety as well to the next level.
The Bureau recently signed an MOU with African Aviation and Aerospace University. Are you also training personnel, and how does that fit into the purview of the agency?
Well, our MOU with the African Aerospace University was actually for facility sharing. They share our facility at our training school here in Abuja. But as they're an aviation university, they do help. We've helped develop some of the curriculum with our native knowledge, and they are open to collaborating with us. But we do have multiple MOUs. We signed an MOU with the University of Lagos in 2018 to help set up our metallurgical lab, which is another material science lab for testing metals. That MOU is ongoing, and we're actually renewing and expanding the scope here in the coming months. We have MOUs with the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian Navy as well. In the past, the Navy was just to cover maritime, air accidents in the Navy, but we're looking to expand the scope into maritime accidents as well. We're also looking to establish MOUs with NIMASA and NIWA. We also have an MOU with NEMA as well, the Emergency Management Agency, which we're working on, and it should be signed here in the next 30 days or so. So we're working on a lot of MOUs. And I must add as well, we're working on one with the Nigerian Railway Corporation as well. That's in its process. And hopefully, I believe by the end of this year, we would have a host of MOUs, and there will be more interagency cooperation, and everything should be streamlined. And we should see a marked improvement in Nigerian aviation safety, Nigerian transport safety standards. Sorry, I went back to aviation. This is my background.
Well,
but yeah, we do aim to see a marked improvement here, latest by the end of the year.
We have to go now, but I remember that the DG of the AIB, the defunct AIB, also had issues, complained bitterly about funding. How optimistic are you that this is not going to handicap the Bureau as it's currently constituted?
I'm totally optimistic. We have to think outside the box. And I must add that hopefully I'll use my youthfulness, to push boundaries. I think every wall is meant to be broken. So whatever those issues are, I'm hoping I have the strength, and with my team behind me and the support of the minister and the federal government, we should surpass all these financial issues in the coming year.
Director General, Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Captain Alex Bade Jr., thank you for talking to us on the program this evening.
Thank you very much, Nifemi.
And that's our show today. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6.